They're just
Welcome to day one on Ahmad 3. So here we go, steaming through this textbook. We're studying vectors today, and what we're going to be doing is adding vectors. And we're going to do that graphically for a while. So let me teach you how to do it. I'll teach you by example on the board, and then you will do one on your table, and then you'll be doing ones on a worksheet. So you have to get the idea of it now. So Sammy, you can stop your test now and work on that some other time and start watching what we're doing. Vectors have size and direction, so we usually indicate them with arrows because arrows also have size, and you can tell the direction by the arrowhead, which way it's going. So I'm going to put these three vectors on a coordinate plane, and you're just watching right now. So you don't have to do anything with your vectors until I describe what to do. So here's my vector B. Do you have a B on your yellow vector?
Yeah.
All right, if you don't, put a B on that, and it's a C on your pink vector, and this must be vector A. All right, so if I left out your vectors, name them A and C and B. All right, the interesting thing about vectors is that they are not tied to the spot where they start. This one starts here under the white magnet, but I can, with integrity, pick up a vector and move it anywhere I want, as long as I keep the size and the angle the same. So if I stretch it, then I have not kept it in the same as starting. If I turn the angle, I have it. But if I keep it the same, I can slide it all around and put it where I want. So where do I want this vector? I want it at the origin. So I'm going to slide it from where it was, keeping the angle and the length the same, and put it down here at the origin. Now I have what's called standard position. On your notes, draw any vector with its tail. This is called the tail. Tail at origin. Draw a coordinate plane on your notes, put the tail at the origin, and indicate that it's called standard position. And show me your fine vector. Indicate that one end at the origin is called the tail, and the other end is called the head of the vector. So, draw and label that. Standard position. Right. It has to touch the origin. Right. So the vector has to touch it. The tail of the vector has to be on the origin. No space between it. Alright, so here's the head and here's the tail. And that's at the origin. Where'd that word come from? Origin. Tail at origin, it's in standard position if it is. Alright. So, for me to put these other ones in standard position, all I have to do is pick them up, keeping the angle the same as move it up there, and take this one here. So, draw several other vectors on your graph in standard position. They don't have to match mine, but just by example. So are they all coming out of the origin? Sort of like a pin cushion?
As long as the tail is the origin, it's
it's in standard position. As long as the tail is at the origin. Alright. Alright, so let me peek at yours. Alright, very good. Good. Head and tail. Alright, so that's just some vector basics. Now we are going to add two vectors together. So I'm going to take vector A and add it to vector B. And after I do that on the board, I want to have you do it on your table. So go ahead while I'm racing and draw a coordinate plane on your table with your chalk. So I want an x-axis and a y-axis that is large enough to take the yellow arrow. So you want it fairly large.
Sorry.
Alright, those in video land, we have constructed this on our tables, and now we're going to add vector A and vector B. So first of all, find vector A, and you have to mimic where my vector A is pointing. So take your vector A, the little one, and put it, say, pointing like this. So it's pointing up into the second quadrant, a little higher than midway. So take your purple one and set it out so it looks just like mine. Oh, it's pointing. All right, let me show you what they. All right, see what they did on their table? Pretty cool. It's supposed to mimic what's on the board.
Good job, Maddie.
All right.
Woo. Miss Powell,
Yeah,
you have the arrow pointing out or
it's out. It's going up into the second quadrant. That's exactly right. Okay, so that is, in order to start your addition, you have to put the first vector in standard position. So wherever it is, you move it over, keeping its size and direction true, and put it in standard position. Now I'm going to add to that vector B. So before I do that, let me show you vector B. It's going to be pointing like that. So put your vector B pointing at a low angle, maybe, what, 30 degrees maybe, into the first quadrant. Put it in standard position. Both of them are. So all you've done is mimic the problem. So they've established that on their tables. All right. So now I'm going to teach you how to add A to B. When you start with A, you do not move A once it's in standard position. What we can move though is B. When we add A to B, we pick up vector B and we move it, keeping the angle and the direction true. We're going to move it to the tail of vector B is going to move to the head of vector A. Again, it was over here, so I'm going to move it's going to be head of A to tail of B. And then I'm going to put it down right there. All right, can you make that same change on yours? So you're going to slide vector B. The tail of B is going to be on the head of A.
So now it's not standard.
It is not standard. A is, but B is not. So when you add them, start at standard position and then move it. All right? Need a. All right. All right. When you're doing this on your papers, and you won't have. You can do this now with chalk. You can indicate to me that this is vector A and this is vector B. All right. So what you have just accomplished there is lining up the head of the first vector to the tail of the second. Head of the first, tail of the second. Now the answer is always from the origin to the head of the last vector. So we're going to draw a dotted line from, you can do this with your chalk, from the origin to the head of the second vector. From the origin to the head of B. And that is, I'm going to put an arrowhead, and that's where most students, if they lose points on these problems, that's where they lose them, at that. You have to tell me which direction that dotted vector is going on. It's always away from the origin, but you have to tell me that. And then indicate that is the sum. That's A plus B right there. We give it a special name because it is so special. We call it the resultant, which is sort of like the result. So this is the resultant. All right, let me see your resultants. Very good. Good. Good.
So right
All right.
triangle.
All right, so here's your resultant. You got the arrowhead on the end. Yep. Yep. All right. Yep. Very good. All right, so that's the resultant vector. Let's try a second one. Let's try, I'll set up another one for you to do on your tables. So you can erase, we'll try to do it with just non-wet tissues to start with. To erase the, you don't have to erase the whole thing, just the dotted answers. So will it come off just enough? We'll do it with wet at the last. So just erase the dotted answer and we'll do a different one.
Oh,
Okay,
Miss Powell.
yeah. Do you have one?
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I didn't see it. All right. All right, can you repeat that process for, I'm going to set up, this time I'll bring out vector C. He's going to be pointed down into the third quadrant. And vector A is going to be pointing into the second one, but very small angle. Oops.
Alright, you got it.
All right, that's how we're going to set up the problem. And this what was this vector here? I forget the one. This is B, I covered it up. And this is C. Okay. All right, set them up like that.
Which one did you put on first? Or does that matter?
It doesn't, just so it looks like this. So now I'm going to tell you what to add. I want you to add vector C to vector B. So I'll write it up on the board. Here's the problem, the way it starts, and I want you to do C plus B. And draw in your resultant vector. How long do you think we've been videotaping? I should have been timing it. It won't say.
Probably like 10 minutes.
10 minutes, you think?
Yeah.
All right, I'll cut it off in part 2 in a few minutes. All right.
Does it like matter if you make it longer or shorter? Like why do they have to be less than 15 minutes?
All right, for
Said they're hard to
some
upload.
reason, they won't let me upload anything greater than 15. And I have applied you can apply if you're a member in good standing or whatever, so you can have longer videos. And I applied, they said I have the rights to do that, but whenever I upload anything longer than 15, it cuts it right off at 15. So I can't figure out what is wrong. So as long as I keep them at 15-minute segments or lower, I'm fine. If I go over, I've got to split it into 2 videos, which is not the end of the world, but saves me a moment. All right, so vector C and B, I'm going to add those 2 together. You have your result on your tables. Draw in the resultant. What quadrant did your vector resultant show up in?
Quadrant.
2.
Have you done it? C
Oh.
plus B. We're doing C plus B now and drawing in the resultant. Quadrant 2? Barely quadrant 2?
Barely.
Like
Barely
halfway.
quadrant 2.
Could it be into quadrant 3?
Barely.
That's quadrant 2. Where's your resultant? Yeah, see, it's in 2. All right, Jenya, we're adding C and B. All right, here's what you should have done. When you saw C plus B, you leave C unchanged, so it's already in standard position. And I'm going to move B so the tail of that is on the head of C. And we go like that, and that is the addition. I'm going to move my B down here. And the resultant is always from the origin out to the final head of vector, the second vector. I should be straight. So indicate that's the resultant by a dotted line and write on it B plus C, keeping the arrowhead in the right direction, always away from the origin. Are you in quadrant 2
I am.
with that addition?
It's in like both quadrants.
No, the answer is in quadrant 2.
Oh
totally.
yeah.
The answer is in quadrant 2.
Yeah.
All right. So I think you got adding. Let me show you subtracting. This is a good breaking point. So Maddie, hit the button, and we'll be back for part 2.
Bye.